Hello and welcome. It is day 11, pattern 11, and we're going to do some rectangles. I know they're not squares, but they have four corners. And here I have an example of two different ways to do it. This particular one is a chain 2 in between each of the clusters and only chain 2 in the corner. And I say, nope. This one is a chain 1 with a chain 3 in the corners, and it seems to hold its structure better. It just looks a lot nicer, in my opinion. So, let's get started. And we're only going to use two colors for this example. I'm using some regular worsted weight yarn and a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So you will begin by chaining in multiples of 3, and we're just going to go with 12. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then in the fourth chain from the hook, the loop does not count as one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to make a double crochet, which created a chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet. And before I go any further, I'm going to put a stitch marker because I'm going to put a lot of stitches in there. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in the third chain, 1, 2, 3, so that when this one next to it gets swallowed up, I don't get confused. So we're going to put one more double crochet in that same spot. Then we will chain 3 and put 3 more double crochets in the same spot. It's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to put 3 more in this spot. So what we did is we just formed one end of the rectangle. So now you're going to skip 2 stitches and see how my one got swallowed up because we put so many in there. We're going to skip 3 and come over to the third one and put a double crochet. And we're going to get rid of that marker. Take that back. Chain 1. And then do the double crochet in the third stitch. You're skipping 2 and then putting 1 double crochet. In the next stitch, you put 1 double crochet. And then in the next stitch, you put 1 double crochet. Chain 1, and then come over to the very first stitch, which is 3 stitches away, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to do 3 double crochets. It's 1, 2, and 3. We're going to chain 3 and put 3 more double crochets. 1. Where's my bowl? 2 and 3. Chain 3. and put 3 more double crochets in that same spot. It's 1, 2, and 3. You're going to chain 1, and in the same stitches that we worked in on the other side, we're going to put double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and attach to the top of the chain 3 space. And we're going to change colors. So that was the very first round. And that's how you should look. Okay, so we're going to change colors. And we're going to start in this spot where we left off. Okay, chain 3 and do 2 more double crochets in that same spot. It's 1 and 2. And if you don't like the chain 3, you can always do the standing double crochet. So you chain 1, come over to this space here, and do 3 double crochets, 2 and 3, chain 3, and do 3 more double crochets in that same spot. Chain 1, come over to the next corner and put 3 double crochets. Chain 3 and do 3 more in that same corner spot. Chain 1, come over to the next space and put 3 double crochets, or better known as a granny cluster. Chain 1, come over to this next space and make a cluster. Chain 1, come over to this corner, make a cluster, chain 3, and make a cluster, chain 1, come over to this corner and make a cluster, chain 3, and do another cluster in the same corner space. Chain 1 and make a cluster in the next space, chain 1, and fasten on to the top of your chain 3 from your beginning spot. Okay, and now you should look like this. Looks like a little bar. Okay, let's go back to our first color. Slip knot. And fasten on over here next to the first space before the corner. Chain 3 and do 2 more double crochets to form a cluster, because the chain 3 counted as a double. Chain 1, come to the corner and do a cluster. Chain 3, do another cluster in the same spot. Chain 1, come over to the next space and do a cluster. Chain 1, come to your corner and do a cluster. Chain 3, do another cluster in the same corner space. Chain 1 and do a cluster in the next space. And basically that is it. That is the repeat all the way around. Cluster, chain 1, you have a cluster, chain 3, cluster in a corner, chain 1, cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 3, cluster, chain 1, cluster. Then it's going to be chain 1, cluster, chain 1, cluster, and work your way into the corner. And each time that you go through a round, like this was the first round, we only had our corner spaces. And then we have our corner and 1, and then we have our corner and 2. So you're growing by 1 cluster on each side with each round. So let's finish up our round and we'll meet back at the end. Alright, so we finished that round, and now you get a good idea of how this works. I could do a 4th round for you if you'd like, but I can't hear you, so you would, wherever you left off, or any space before the corner, you would start, chain 3, do 2 more doubles, chain 1, and then work a cluster, chain 3 cluster for the corner. And you should gain 1 space per round on each side. And that gives you this nice little granny rectangle. And this is my first example that I showed you, and this is my toss that one away sample because I didn't like the structure. Alright guys and gals, this is it. This was day 11, pattern number 11, and you're appreciated, and thanks so much for watching.